So today I'll show you how to model a sign in Fusion 360 to be cut on the CNC machine. So the first step is to create a sketch. You go up to this panel right here and click Create Sketch. And now you can choose the plane for your sketch. I'll choose the bottom plane. Or now that you're able to draw the sketch, you can move around the view by holding the middle mouse, and it will pan your view around. You can also rotate your view by pressing middle mouse and shift. And you can zoom in and out with the scroll wheel. You can also click on this box right here to rotate your view around, or you can click on the individual sides of the box. If you're on a Mac or you're using some kind of a trackpad, you can use two fingers as a replacement for the middle mouse. So if you use two fingers and then drag with shift, you can rotate around. And if you use two fingers just by themselves, you can you can pan your view. And if you like to zoom in and out with a Mac, you can use two fingers and pinch in order to zoom in and out. So now that we're in the sketch menu, let's start drawing. Go up to the sketch palette. You can select the 2-point rectangle from here, or you can go down into the rectangle tab and clicking 2-point rectangle, or you can also memorize the button that you need to press to bring up the rectangle. So I'll just click here, and then I'll click 2 points starting from the center point. And you can click these anywhere you want. We can set the dimensions after. Now that you have your shape complete, you can bring up the dimensions tool. So go to Sketch, and then go down to Sketch Dimension, or you can press D. And now you can select a side and add a dimension to it. So I'll select the bottom side, and then I'll add a dimension of 200 millimeters. And now I'll select the left side and set it to 150 millimeters. And now I'm done with the sketch. I can press Stop Sketch. And I can rotate my view around, again with Shift and middle mouse. Now I can click the Extrude button right here, select the sketch plane, and now I can drag to change how much it extrudes. In this case, I like the sign to be 1/2 inch in thickness, so you can actually use different dimensions or different units here. You don't have to use millimeters, so I can type in 0.5 inches, and it will automatically use inches for this dimension. Now I want some rounded edges on my sign, so I can go to the Modify tab and open up the fillet. Now I'll select this edge, this edge. You don't have to hold shift when you're selecting multiple edges, you can just click on them. This edge and this edge. If you accidentally choose another edge, you can just select it again to deselect it. Now you can push in this arrow right here to add the fillet. I will make it 20 millimeters. You can also type it in through here on the right window. Just press OK. Now I'll line back upright again. Now I'd like to make an inset right here. So I'll start by making another sketch. And while last time we started with the bottom plane, we now want to sketch on top of our existing surface. So I'll click this as the plane. Now I can add a 2-point rectangle. Again, I'll just kind of put it wherever. It's not too important at this stage. Then I can go to the sketch section and choose the fillet once again, and I can select the points that I'd like to fillet. So I'll click the first point, and now holding shift, I'll select the other 4 points, or other 3 points. And now I can drag in the fillet, and I'll set it to 10 millimeters. Now I'd like to make it a uniform distance to the edge on all sides. So I'll bring up the dimension tool again. Another way you can bring up the dimension tool other than going up here every time is if you right click, hold, and then you drag down, you'll see that you can select different tools. So in this case, this sketch dimension tool is on the left for me. I can also get to the same tool by dragging out the shape that I want, and it will bring up my tool, sketch dimension. Or if I drag down again to sketch, you can see I can also select the 2-point rectangle like so. So sketch dimension, 2-point rectangle. So I'll use the sketch dimension again, and I'll select the first edge, and I'll select the second edge, and I'll set it to 10 millimeters. And then I'll repeat this step for all of the edges, or all of the frame, I mean. And then again, I'll stop the sketch. And I want to extrude this downwards this time. So I'll choose the extrude option once again, select the middle plane, or the middle sketch, and now I can drag it into the surface and it will cut away. And I'll cut away 1/4 inch. And I just hit enter there to submit it. Now it's time to draw the logo in the center. So we'll make another sketch on the center surface. And we'll use the line tool. So draw just kind of a triangle. Doesn't have to be perfect. And now we need to draw a midpoint line because our triangle needs to be symmetrical on both sides. So if you go up along this top line here and drag your mouse, you'll see that these little icons start popping up. When you get to the point where there's a triangle, this means you're at the midpoint. So click once, and then on the bottom side, drag your mouse along till you get to the midpoint, and you see the triangle again. Click again, and you can see this is now our center line. Now it's time to make this triangle symmetrical. So on the right side, there's a sketch palette full of constraints. If you don't see it, you have to press the double arrows. Now if you drag down to the bottom of the sketch palette, you can select one of these constraints. So in this case, I want this point to be on this line. So I'll click the coincident constraint. You can see the icon shows that's what it does. So I'll select the top point, then I'll select the line. Now I want a symmetry constraint, so click the symmetry. I'll choose the 2 points first, and then I'll select the midpoint line. And now I'd like to make sure that this bottom line is always parallel with this surface, or with this bottom edge, so you can use the parallel, select the bottom edge, and then that edge. Now you see right here, it says sketch geometry is over constrained. That means that I don't actually need a parallel constraint right here because it can figure out that the constraint should be parallel based on these 2 symmetry constraints. So now I will add another dimension. So drag, bring up the dimension tool, and then I'll select this surface, or this edge, and this edge. And I can drag out, and I'll set it to 45 degrees. So now you can see it's automatically updated the other edge as well because it's symmetrical. And now I'll add a dimension from this point to this top edge. And I'll set to 10 millimeters. And now I'll add one last dimension on the bottom, and I'll set this to 115 millimeters. And as you can see, I don't need to add another dimension right here because of the constraints. You also notice that all of the lines are black rather than blue. Black means they're fully constrained. If you select them, they can't be dragged around. So now I can press stop sketch. And this time I will extrude it upwards again. And you can select 2 points just by clicking on them, or 2 surfaces by clicking on them. Drag upwards and then set that to 0.125 inches. 0.125 inches, so 1/8 of an inch. And now I'll make the final layer on top of this one. So I'll start with the midpoint, so I'll click, or the midpoint line for the symmetry, so I'll click here, and then drag down. And actually, never mind, I won't do, yeah, I will. Actually, I won't. So now all we have to do is detail half of the triangle this time, and I'll show you how to symmetrically mirror it over in another step. So bring up your line tool again and draw just sort of a triangle, And now you can draw just a shape like this. And then I'll also add, of course, a midpoint line just to make sure this surface gets lined up correctly. And now you can see, because they're blue, that means they're unconstrained. So I can click on them at any point with my mouse and drag them around. So the first step is to use the collinear tool, or the collinear constraint, to constrain this triangle to here. Then I'll constrain, I'll use the collinear to constrain this edge and this edge. Then I'll use the parallel constraint to constrain that to that. Now I can start adding dimensions. So if I bring up my dimension tool, I'll select these two edges and set them 4 millimeters apart. Select these two edges, those will be 4 millimeters apart. This and this are 4 millimeters apart. And you see, once I add this, the other one has updated as well because they're on the same line. They're collinear. So now I would like to make, now I get to decide what shape this is, or how large this is. So I'll bring up the dimension tool again, select here, make it 22 millimeters. And now the shape is fully constrained. So I'll stop the sketch, I'll extrude it, and I'll make it 0.125 inches. And now I want to mirror this to this side. So the way you can do that is by making a plane. So previously, when we started the drawing, you could see these planes, the front plane, the top plane, the right plane, the left plane. But now I want to make a plane in the middle to copy one detail to the other side. So I can go to the Construct tab here, and I can click Midpoint, or Midplane. Now I can select this side and this side, and we'll make a plane perfectly in the middle. Now I can go to the Modify tab, and I can select, or sorry, not the, is it the Create tab, and then go to the Mirror tool. Now I can select what I'd like to mirror. So I can either use faces or features. I will use features. And now I can select from this bottom history what feature I want. So the most recent feature that we added was this extrusion. So we're going to copy this. And now we can select our mirror plane. And it will copy to the other side, and we'll just click OK. And now it has been copied. Now the nice thing about Fusion is that if at any point we want to go back and change a dimension, like I just noticed, these two are too close to each other, and I want it to be the same thickness as this right here, I can go back into the sketch right here on the timeline. I can right-click and click Edit Sketch. So now I can go back and change any dimensions I like. So I'd like this to be 8 millimeters. I'd like this to be 8 millimeters. And this to be 8 millimeters. As you can see, the features have all been updated past this point. You can also drag this back in time to see what your model looked like at any stage. Also, say if I wanted to extrude this higher, I could select that feature as well, make it taller, although we still only need it to be 1/8 of an inch. And this is the finished sign. So make sure that you save your document. I'll call this the CyberDyne sign. So in the next video, I'll show you how to set up this model for CNC machining.